Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's video we're going to continue on what we talked about yesterday, how we can factor polynomials, just kind of using some mental math skills and some multiplication and addition facts that we already know in our head. And for example, I've got just a sample problem here at the top that is a little review of what we did yesterday. Remember, a couple days ago we were trying to do factoring using the greatest common factor when all of the terms had something in common. But if you look at this question, none of the three terms have anything in common. I mean, these two have an x, but this one doesn't, so it's not like they all have x's. These two could be divided by 2, but this doesn't have a number that I can divide by 2 because technically it's a 1 right there. So there's nothing that's in common with all three. I can't do a GCF, and so what we had to do yesterday was we just kind of had to work backwards from this type of a question. We know it's got to be x times x because it's x squared. And so what we did yesterday is we looked at the actual terms, right? This term in the middle, sometimes called the b term, right? You're looking for two numbers that will add up to equal 10, but at the same time, those two numbers will multiply to equal 24. And so I'm thinking of two numbers that'll multiply together to equal 24, that'll add up to equal 10. And there's lots of ways to get 24. Obviously, 24 times 1, 12 times 2, 6 times 4. Oops, I forgot 8 times 3. There's only one of those combinations that has the two numbers add up to 10. It's not 24 and 1. That equals 25. 12 plus 2 is 14. 8 plus 3 is 11. It's got to be this one right here, 6 plus 4. And so 6 plus 4 would equal 10. 6 times 4 would equal 24. And so yesterday we would say, okay, this is our answer. We have factored the polynomial. This is basically the opposite of doing FOIL. It's the opposite of doing the distributive property. It's almost like this is the answer, and we had to figure out what was the question that gave us that answer. And that's how we did it. We kind of did some mental math, and it was pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Now, you're wondering, okay, why are you making a new video? This is exactly what we did yesterday, right? What happens whenever, and you can see down here on the bottom part of my board, I have the same exact question that I have, or the same exact statement. What happens if they have an equals 0? And now it's an equation, right? Yesterday, all that we did were expressions. We factored expressions. Today, they're all going to have equal signs, and they're all going to equal something. Now, the whole idea today is make it equal 0. Get all of your terms on one side of the equal sign. I usually try to put everything on the left, but you want to have everything on the left over here, and you want to have it equal 0. Because we know if we can make it equal 0, then we can do the zero product property that we discussed last week in a couple of my videos. So, goal number 1, if it doesn't equal 0, you need to move stuff around to make it equal 0, right? Add stuff on both sides, subtract stuff on both sides, whatever you need to do. But if it already equals 0, like this one does, you're in great shape. You can just go straight to factoring it. So, let me kind of put some notes over here for these equations. Number 1, excuse me, make it equals 0. Okay, that's kind of shorthand for add stuff on both sides, subtract stuff on both sides, make it equal 0, and then we want to factor it using the skills that we learned yesterday. And then number 3, we'll do the zero product property, which you'll see me put that in action just here in a second in case you forgot what that is. So that's this property. It's kind of off the screen. There it is. So we've got x squared plus 10x plus 24. So just like on my little warm-up problem there, I'm looking for two numbers that will add up to equal 10, that will multiply together to equal positive 24. And you just saw me do it on the last one. That's obviously 6 and 4. So instead of having this as my answer and being done, now it equals 0. Now, if you remember what we did last week, a couple videos ago, the zero product property, all that means is we have an equation here with a final answer of 0. And anytime you have a multiplying problem where the final answer is 0, right? These two parentheses are being multiplied together, even though there's no dot in there, it's actually being multiplied. If you have a multiplying problem where the final answer is 0, you know, because of the zero product property, you know that the only way to get a final answer of 0 in a multiplying question is to have one of the numbers that you multiplied together equal 0. Right? And so if you remember what we did a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, we would say, okay, I know that one of these parentheses had to equal 0 because my final answer is 0. So what number would I substitute right here to make this entire parentheses equal 0? So what number plus 6 would equal 0? That's got to be negative 6, right? Or it could have been this parentheses that equaled 0. So what number would I substitute right here for the x to make this second parentheses equal 0? What number plus 4 would equal 0? That would have to be negative 4, right? And so we have two answers on these equations in most cases, not always. Sometimes you only get one if the parentheses are the exact same. So in this example, x could equal negative 4 or negative 6, right? Either one of those, if you plug them in to the spot of the x way back up here and worked it out, you would get an answer of 0. And you could do that if you really wanted to on your own. I don't really have the room to do it right now. But if you want to test me out and try it for yourself, you could see that it would actually equal 0. You know what? Well, I guess I can't. I do have room to do it right now. I can do it in my head. Like if we put negative 4 up here, right? Negative 4 squared, negative 4 times 4, or negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. And then you would put negative 4 right here. 10 times negative 4 is negative 40. And then you would have plus 24. And you can see how if I add all this up, 16 minus 40 is negative 24. Negative 24 plus 24 is 0. See how it works? I got a final answer of 0. It would be the same thing with negative 6. I guess I'll go quickly. If I put negative 6 up here, negative 6 squared, that's negative 6 times negative 6, that's positive 36. If I put negative 6 right there, negative 10 times negative 6 would be negative 60, and then plus 24. You can see how this is going to equal 0 as well, right? 36 minus 60 is negative 24, and negative 24 plus 24 is 0. Those are the only two numbers that it will work for. If I put another number up there like 3 or 4 or 0 or negative 5, it would not work that way. Okay, that's our big idea today. Let's practice a couple more so we can get the hang of it. I've got 3 examples on this board. Once again, we're solving polynomial equations using factoring. Now, these are all going to be the easier variety because these already equal 0. So I don't need to move anything around. It already equals 0. It's in good shape. So I can go straight to the factoring part. Can I think of two numbers that add up to equal 11, that multiply together to equal positive 30? That plus sign in front of the 30 is why I said positive 30. So can I think of two numbers that multiply together to equal positive 30 that would add up to equal 11? Right? What are all the combinations that could equal 30? It could be 30 times 1. It could be 15 times 2. It could be 10 times 3. It could be 6 times 5. And then I could do the reverse of all those. Only one of those combinations adds up to equal 11. And it's got to be this one right here, right? 6 and 5. None of the others would equal 30. So it's got to be 6 and 5. Let me erase that so I can save some space. That means my statement is really 6 and 5, we said was the combination. Two numbers that would multiply together to equal 30. It would add up to equal 11, 6 and 5. And now it equals 0. So now I can apply the zero product property, right? I have a multiplying question. My final answer is 0. These are being multiplied right here. How did I get a final answer of 0 in a multiplying question? Well, the only way to get 0 as a final answer to a multiplying question is to have one of your parentheses or one of the numbers that you multiply together had to be 0. And so what number would I substitute in here for this y to make this in first parentheses equal 0? What number plus 6 would give me 0? That would be negative 6, right? Negative 6 plus 6 would equal 0. What number would I substitute into the second parentheses if I was interested in making the second parentheses equal 0? That would be negative 5. And so for number 1, y equals negative 5 and negative 6. You can put the word or in between them if you want. I just put a comma in between them just to kind of save space. Same thing on number 2. Okay, it already equals 0, so I'm looking good there. I'm looking for two numbers that would multiply to equal positive 8, but they add up to equal negative 6. Oh, so this is a negative. So the only way I could have numbers that multiply together to equal positive 8, that's probably got to be what, 8 and 1 or 4 and 2? But wait a second, these need to add up to equal negative 6. And right now I have positive 9 and positive 6 if I add mine together. So that's a clue that these are both negatives, right? So negative 8 times negative 1, that would equal positive 8 if I multiplied them, but negative 8 and negative 1 would not add up to equal negative 6. Negative 8 plus negative 1 would equal negative 9. So it's not that. How about negative 4 and negative 2? All right, if I just put negatives on those, does negative 4 times negative 2 add up to equal negative 6? Yes. Does negative 4 times negative 2 equal positive 8 if I multiplied them? Yeah, because two negatives make a positive when you're multiplying. So that's what the two parentheses are on this one, negative 4 and negative 2. Negative 4 times negative 2 would equal positive 8. Negative 4 plus negative 2 would equal negative 6. So I have my two parentheses. It equals 0 again. So once again, I'm trying to figure out, okay, my final answer is 0. That means one of these parentheses had to equal 0. What number would I plug in here for the w to make the first parentheses equal 0? That looks like 4, right? 4 minus 4 would give me 0. Or what would I plug into the second parentheses to make that parentheses equal 0? What number? That looks like 2, right? 2 minus 2 would be 0. And there it is, w equals 4 or w equals 2. Okay, let's do one more like this. These are kind of the easier ones. You're like, dude, this is so easy. I could do this in my sleep. Well, yeah, I know. Hang on, wait till we get to the next one because it does get a little bit tougher. On this one, we were looking for two numbers that multiply together to equal negative 15. And when we add them up, we get positive 2. Remember to take that plus sign or the minus sign along. That's really going to help you make sure you get the right combination of numbers. So this multiplies to equal negative 15. So my only ideas are negative 5 and 3, negative 3 and 5. I guess I could do negative 1 and positive 15, or negative 15 and positive 1. They usually don't do those, but every once in a while they'll sneak one of them in there when they use the number 1. Okay, only one of these combinations would add up to equal 2. And it's not that one. This one would equal negative 2 if we added it up. I think it's here, negative 3 plus 5. That would equal 2, right? That it would equal 14. This would equal negative 14. It's not those two. It's got to be this one. So it's going to be j minus 3, j plus 5. And you could have this flipped, right? You could have the plus 5 in the first parentheses and the minus 3 in the second parentheses. It's not really a big deal. And now I'm going to start doing what I did on the last two. I have a multiplying situation. There's really a multiplying dot right there. My final answer is 0. The only way to get a final answer of 0 in a multiplying scenario is to have one of your numbers, one of your factors that you multiplied, be 0. So what number would I substitute into this parentheses to make this parentheses equal 0? That looks like 3, right? If j equaled 3, that would be 3 minus 3 would equal 0. And then we'd have 0 times 8, because 3 plus 5 would be 8. 0 times 8 would equal 0. Or in the second parentheses, if I wanted to make this one equal 0, I would put negative 5 in there, because then negative 5 plus 5 would equal 0, and this one would be negative 8. Negative 8 times 0 would still equal 0. So we have two answers on this one, j equals 3 or j equals negative 5. Okay, hopefully that's kind of making sense. If it's not making a lot of sense to you, go ahead and pause the video, rewind it, watch me do those again. I want to go and do one more board. This last board is going to be a little bit trickier because they won't equal 0 already at the beginning of the question. We're going to have to do some stuff. We're going to have to manipulate the equations a little bit to make them equal 0. So let me grab my last board here. Oh, sorry, next to last board. I really only have 4 more questions, but I thought these may take a little more space, so I only put 2 on a board. Okay, when the person who's writing the questions wants to be a little bit rude, they want to be a little bit disrespectful to you, here's what they're going to do. They're not going to have it equal 0 right off the beginning. That's kind of disgusting, right? That's kind of disrespectful. Don't let them disrespect you like that. You know what that means, right? We are really good at solving these whenever it equals 0. So what do I have to do? If I've got something over here, I'm just going to do the opposite, right? I need to move it to the other side of the equal sign. I want to clear out the entire right-hand side, or you could clear out the left-hand side if you wanted. I want to have one side of the equal sign equal 0. I want to put everything else on the other side. All right, for example, on this one, I don't want to have negative 12 out here. I'm going to put plus 12. I really can't add it to either one of these, so I'm just going to kind of put it right there. I don't want to have minus 12 or negative 12 on the right-hand side. I want that to cancel out, right? Let me rewrite it. I want to equal 0 up here. So on the left-hand side, x squared, that has to go first because this is the second degree. The plus 7x needs to be in the middle because that's to the first degree, to the first power. My plus 12, I can't add 12 with this. I can't add 12 with this. This is a regular number. This is to the second power. This is to the first power. This doesn't even have a letter x on it. So it's got to go at the end. And now, look at this. This is what we just did on the previous board, right? Now it looks like the way that it should. I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker. Do we know two numbers that will multiply together to equal 12? That would add up to equal 7? That's got to be 4 and 3, right? 4 times 3 equals 12, and 4 plus 3 equals 7. And so I can write it like that. There you go. I factored it. Step 2, factor. And now step 3, use the zero product property. What number would I have to put in this parentheses to make my final answer 0? What number would this parentheses need to equal 0? That would be -4, right? -4 plus 4 would equal 0. Or this parentheses, if I was interested in making this parentheses equal 0, I would need to put -3 in there, right? So x equals -4 or x equals -3, 2 answers on number 4. Okay. Whew, deep breath. That was kind of a tough one. Number 5, here you go. They're being rude and disrespectful again. Not nice. They've got 2 pieces on the right-hand side. We've got this minus 2x over on the left-hand side. You know what? Since there's only one thing over here on the left, on this one I may actually do this and just put the 2x, bring that over to the right. It doesn't matter where the 0 is. As long as you get 0 on one side of the equal sign, I really don't care if you have the 0 on the left-hand side or the 0 on the right-hand side, right? On all the questions on my previous board and up here on this one, the 0 is on the right-hand side. But you can do it like this. Now, if that really bothers you and you are kind of freaking out because you don't like having the 0 over there, can you just flip it around and do this and magically put the 0 on the other side? Sure, you can do that. That's not going to hurt anyone's feelings. You're still okay. But if you wanted to keep the 0 over there on the left, that would be all right too. Either way, we have it completed for step 1. Step 1, make it equal 0. Get all of the stuff, all of the terms on one side of the equal sign. Have the other side of the equal sign equal 0. Step 2, we want to factor it. Can I do 2 numbers? I know it's got to be x's in here because these are x's. Do I know 2 numbers that multiply together to equal -35 that would add up to equal +2? 35. That's probably 7 and 5, right? But it's either going to be -7 and +5 or -5 and +7. Which one of these would equal +2? I think it's this guy right here, right? -5 plus 7, so -5 and +7. Okay, now I have my 2 parentheses. It is factored. I can use the zero product property now. This is a multiplying question. I have a final answer of 0. That means one of my parentheses had to equal 0. What number would make this parentheses equal 0? 5, right? Oops, I'm off my board. Let me back up my phone a little bit. If x equaled 5, we would have an answer of 0 in that parentheses. Or if I wanted this parentheses to equal 0, I would put -7 right there. So we have 2 answers on that one. +5 or -7. All good? All right, this is about the hardest that they can do. Most people, or most books, don't give you a lot of questions like this. Usually the questions are going to be more like what we did yesterday, where there's no equal sign and you just have to factor it. But I kind of like this. It puts everything together, uses some skills that we've done over the last couple weeks. All right, here we go. The hardest ones you can do. I'm getting close to 20 minutes. That's a clue I'm almost finished here. The hardest ones you can do. What if they have 2 things on each side of the parentheses? Okay, you have 2 terms on the left, you have 2 terms on the right. 2 on the right, 2 on the left. That just means bring everything over to one side. I'm going to put everything over here on the left, right? So instead of -13y, I'm going to put +13y. 13y really doesn't fit with any of these, so I'm just going to kind of hang it down there. Instead of -10, I'm going to do +10. Oh wait, +10 can actually match up, right? +10 can go with the 30 right here. And so I brought everything to the left. It's kind of jumbled. I don't really like the way I wrote that. It's not very organized. But can I reorganize that over here? Y squared has to be first because that's the second power. I'm going to put this in standard form, right? From highest exponent down to lowest exponent. 13y is to the first degree because it's to the first power. That goes second. And then I don't know if you guys noticed, right? These two are actually both just regular numbers, right? Those are degree 0. I can add those together. I can do 30 plus 10. 30 plus 10 is 40, right? So there's the left-hand side of my equal sign. The right-hand side, remember, this is still an equation. I still have an equal sign. I have nothing left on the right-hand side because I canceled everything out over here. There is nothing left over here, right? It equals 0. There's your 40. There's your y squared. There's your 13y. Okay, so it looks a lot neater over here. I'm going to work over here. Now, this one is ready to actually be solved. I'm ready to factor it now. This is what I mean when I say make it equal 0. Cancel all the stuff out on one side, move it over to the other side so that you can write it neat and nice like this where it equals 0. And now we can do what we did all day yesterday and all day today. Can we come up with 2 numbers that would multiply together to equal 40, that would add up to equal 13? Let's see, 40. 40 times 1, that doesn't equal 13 if I add them up. 20 times 2, no, that would be 22. 10 times 4, 10 and 4 would be 14. 8 and 5. 8 and 5, there we go. 8 times 5, that equals 40. 8 plus 5, that equals 13. There it is, 8 and 5. Okay, now it's time to apply the zero product property, right? This is a multiplying question with the final answer of 0. So that means one of my parentheses had to equal 0, either this one or this one. What number would I substitute for the y to make this parentheses 0? -8. What number would I substitute into this parentheses to make this parentheses equal 0? -5. Okay, 2 answers. On number 6, done. That's the hardest that they can give you. If that made sense to you, you should be feeling pretty good about yourself because they won't get any more difficult than that. Number 7, rude. This is as rude as you can get. Oh my goodness, look at all this nonsense. I don't want to have anything on the right-hand side. I'm going to move all this stuff over to the left. For example, this plus 2x, I need to do minus 2x. Now, it really can't subtract with anything. I'm just going to kind of hang it out down here. So just don't let that bother you. Here we go, plus 90. I'm going to make that minus 90. Minus 90, that leaves me with nothing over here, right? Oh, we can do this, right? We can do -10 minus 90. All right, if I'm trying to keep myself a little more organized than I did on the last time, you've got x squared. That should still be at the beginning. This minus 2x, there's no other regular x's to combine with, so that's just kind of gonna hang out there. But these two we can actually add or subtract, right? Right here. I can actually do that. -10 and -90 would make -100, wouldn't it? Now, I have it written the way that I want it to. I'm going to rewrite it over here just so I give myself some more room. So I'm not doing any math right now. I'm just copying it down. So look what we did, right? We got everything on the left-hand side. All of my terms, if I scoot that over, all of my terms are on the left-hand side. It equals 0. I have it equaling 0. Goal number 1, always make sure these equations equal 0. Set the equation so that it equals 0. Step 2, can we factor this? Do I know two numbers that would multiply together to equal -100 that would add up to equal -2? Oh, geez. Oh, boy. Did I mess this one up? I think I may have messed this one up. I totally think I messed this one up, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't want this to be equal -100. There is no combination that equals -100, is there? I don't think there is. I mean, the only combinations that equal 100 are 10 and 10, -10 and +10, 25 and 4, 50 and 2. None of those would equal 100. Sorry about that. I'm screwed up whenever I made that question. Let me actually switch it to something that would actually work. Instead of 100, I guess if we could have made it... I can't even remember what I was going for on this one. I don't know. I think I was going for 80. I was trying to get us with 80, and that way we could do 10 and 8. So I should have had 80. You know what? I think I messed up over here. I should have had this as a minus 90, so then we would have done plus 90. If we would have done plus 90, then we would have had positive 80 right here. But whatever. Let's just act like we did it like this. So if this were my question, if it was -80, I would do -10 and positive 8, right? -10 and positive 8 would equal -80. If I multiplied it, and then a -10 plus -8 would equal -2. And here you go. What number would make this parentheses equal 0? 10. What number would make this parentheses equal 0? -8. So I apologize about that. I screwed up the last one. I just make these questions up on my own. I don't like get them out of a book or anything. And so I am sorry about that. If that were to ever happen, like let's say there were a situation where you're doing a question in your head, or you're doing it like this, and there is no combination, right? Say that you get a question like this, like I had, and there is no combination that works. What you can do, because there is no combination that would, if I multiplied to equal -100, these are the only ways we could multiply numbers to get -100, right? -20 times 5, -10 times 10, and then we could reverse all of those. But none of these combinations, if I add them up, will equal -2, even if I reverse them all. If you do ever get one that doesn't work, you can just kind of say this, and then your answer, what you can put is not factorable if it's not possible. Because every once in a while, they'll try to be sneaky. and give you one that doesn't even factor. That hardly ever happens, but every once in a while it does. So anyway, I apologize about that last one I made a mistake on. But otherwise, my algebra students, I'm going to give you a few practice questions, not as many as I gave you yesterday, because I know these take a little bit of time, on the Big Ideas Math website that you can use to practice. See if you can get some of these a little more familiar with you. If you are not a person who has access to that, you can go to this website, and on the right-hand side, it'll say Polynomials. It'll say Factoring Polynomials Easy. Pick the one that says Easy. They won't be like this assignment that we have today. They won't be equations. They'll just be expressions. If you just want some practice coming up with the two parentheses, you won't actually have to do step 2 and step 3. You won't have to make them equal 0. You won't have to solve it using the zero product property. So thanks again for watching. Apologize again about that last one. My bad. We'll be back tomorrow with a different video. See ya.